If I had to describe the Gamer Edition figures so far, the Bumblebee is definitely like War for Cybertron where I love it, but it's nowhere as close as Fall of Cybertron levels of good. And then there's Rise of the Dark Spark. Hello everyone, it is Briximus Prime back for another Transformers Studio Series Gamer Edition action figures review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the War for Cybertron Bumblebee and the War for Cybertron Barricade. But anyway, let's just get right on into the video by starting with the packaging. And now taking a look at the packaging here, we've got Bumblebee and Barricade, says number 1 and number 2, has their names right there. Says Transformers on the sides, Generations, Takara Tomy, and then the War for Cybertron video game logo, same thing here on the top. Here on the side, we got the images of the characters, right? Authentic Transformers! Here on the back of the packaging, we've got some images of Barricade and Bumblebee. And, you know, we'll be going over a lot of this stuff in the review. And then they have also got their mug shots right here, and it says they're deluxe class figures. And that's basically it for the packaging. And now taking a look at the cardboard backdrops here do provide some extra options for any kind of display stuff you want to do with your figures. So that's it for those. And I was actually surprised to see that Bumblebee actually comes with quite a few accessories. First off, I guess we'll start with Bumblebee. He comes with his melee weapon from the game. He comes with this nice little sword here, done in the gray plastic. And then he does also come with what was basically the sniper rifle of the game, and it's done pretty well with some nice sculpted detail, nice barrel. And then this is the gun that Bumblebee basically had as his default weapon that they gave him in the cutscenes and inside of the actual game itself. This was his default, and doesn't look too bad. And then Barricade also comes with probably one of my favorite guns in the game. This gun was really popular and also was his default gun from the game, from the levels that he was in. And of course, just like the previously reviewed Optimus Prime, they do want you to remove the arms off of the figures so you may attach on the guns. And of course, both of these figures both feature some nice weapon storage on their backs. Sadly though, there is no way to store the extra arms that they're not using. And here's first off taking a look at Bumblebee. I like the way how the head sculpt here looks very G1, and I like the silver in the face and the blue in the eyes. Gives him a lot of life and makes him, just feel like Bumblebee. He has this very light-hearted vibe going on with this figure. He's got a nice Autobot logo right there on the chest, or is it his pot belly? I don't know. But I also like the bits of red throughout the figure. It's a very uncommon color palette for Bumblebee to have bits of red on him, but it actually works. I like how it looks. I feel like it complements with the black and the yellow. And again, I also like the color of yellow here. It's not necessarily like a really bright neon yellow, but it's also not so like dark either. Like it's a very nice balance between the two, between both video game and cartoon toy character. I like the yellow here, and obviously all of that is also complemented by just the mechanical detail that the Studio Series always has that is very impeccable and very precise. And overall, I think the figure looks fine for the most part. He just looks a little bit disproportionate, but honestly, I don't mind it too much.
At least it's game accurate or whatever.
And here's taking a look at Barricade. I think he looks pretty good. He came out looking all right. I mean, he does have the classic color palette of, Decepticon black and gray with a hint of purple, but those yellow eyes really do add a little bit of uniqueness to the figure and really make it pop. And obviously, they also sculpted it here to where it looks like he's crying.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But besides that, all the mechanical detail and everything looks good. The figure at least looks like Barricade, and he is a little bit busy in some areas. I like the detail and everything on here, but the Bumblebee only, there's just a lot of busy work on some of the areas. I do like this area on his back, though. I like all this engine detail and everything. The only problem is, looks can be deceiving. First of all, I don't really like his thin waist here. I'm not sure if it's accurate to the game or not. You know, I couldn't tell because the game is always so freaking dark. Also, I don't like how flat his feet look. It looks like he has, like, Donald Duck feet. Starting off with Bumblebee, first off, he's got a ball joint at the head, which allows for his head to look up and down, and allows for the head to swivel all the way around. Shoulders are also on a ball joint and a slight butterfly joint in there, which allows them to rotate a full 360, again, with some adjustability. His shoulders can move outward that far, just barely. He does get a bicep swivel, 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, and then due to transformation, the wrists can rotate in and out. And then he does have a waist, believe it or not, due to his belly. It doesn't look like it upon first glance. Swivel right in there, which works perfectly fine. The only problem is here in his torso, this part doesn't really like to snap in unless I'm missing something from Hasbro's stupid instructions. And then the back also doesn't really like to tab in either. The legs can rotate forward, they can rotate back that far, they can rotate out to the... He does get a thigh swivel, over 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and then the ankles can pivot outward? So what a lot of people have been doing lately is they've been ripping off Bumblebee's legs, and then they've been swapping them around so that the ankle pivot will then face the other way. So now that the legs are swapped around, you can give him some nice ankle pivot, but this is still a problem. And I'm sad to say that Barricade doesn't get much better. He can look up and down like a teeny bit, looks less like an up and down and more like a He can rotate his head slightly, I guess. It's just so tight, it's hard to tell. Shoulders can rotate on this ball joint until they run into the backpack, and they can rotate back about that far. They can move outward that far, and they do shift a little bit on this extra transformation joint. He does get a limited bicep swivel, but again, it's hard because sometimes it runs into everything. He gets a limited bend at the elbow, and oh my gosh, stay closed. The wrists can rotate, not a full 360, but they can rotate. And then he does get a nice tight waist swivel, though sometimes it runs into these little hip wheel things. And you'd think these hip wheel things would interfere with the ball joints moving outward for his spread, right? Wrong. The ball joints themselves hinder it from actually spreading out farther than this. Disgusting. The legs rotate forward very far. They can rotate back quite a bit. He does have a slightly limited thigh swivel. And then he has a disgustingly limited bend in the knee. But for anyone who cares, you can bend this wheel back so that it fits with the flow of the knee bend. But the thing is, I don't care. And then finally, his ankles don't have any ankle pivot. They are sculpted at a pivot. They can only move up and down. This articulation is atrocious. Because of just how clunky and top-heavy he is, he just falls over constantly. So most of the time that I'm posing him, he always ends up doing the Michael Jackson lean. Barricade, how am I able to like you and hate you at the same freaking time? And now for comparisons, here is the Bumblebee and Barricade compared next to the previously reviewed Gamer Edition Optimus. And I'm actually quite surprised how big Barricade is for a deluxe class. Like, even though I did mention he is chunky, he really is a chunky deluxe. But again, that doesn't mean he's the best of the bunch. And then here they are compared next to a deluxe class Bumblebee that I've previously taken a look at. And then here they are compared next to an actually good Barricade figure. Anyway, that's it for the comparisons. Let's now get into the transformation for these two without losing my mind. By the way, don't forget, if you're going to transform Bumblebee back into his car mode after swapping the legs, that means every time you're gonna have to rip him off again and put him back on! Taking a look at Bumblebee and Barricade in their alternate modes. And this is where things start to flip on their head. I think Barricade is actually better in his vehicle mode than he is in his robot mode. And I do still think Bumblebee's vehicle mode is still just as good as the robot mode, only the process to get there is... it just pisses me off. Bumblebee does have that nice, smooth, and appealing shape of his alternate mode, and he's very compact as well. And again, it doesn't look bad, it looks accurate to the game and everything. Kibble's very minimal. There's the classic Bumblebee undercarriage. But as I said, the transformation is quite painful because there's a lot of these different pieces that feel like they barely line up, and there's a lot of clearance issues and parts fall off, and it's just kind of frustrating. But I mean, at least this guy rolls, right?
Right?
And Barricade, of course, looks really good as well. He actually looks kind of like the Batmobile the more I look at him. But I like this mean-looking, like, grilled spikes right here at the front. It's got the Decepticon logo, the silver, and the gray and the purple is a nice mix of colors. Very nice details going all over. And, of course, that big engine block at the back looks great. My only issue is that I feel like the wheels should have had some purple painted in here on the rim areas because they're just straight up plain black, and it's the only part of this vehicle mode that I don't like. And also, just like the Optimus, these guys both have a bunch of weapon storage in their alternate modes. It's just some of them are more ridiculous than others. Bumblebee literally looks like an entire munitions depot. Here they are with the Voyager Optimus Prime. As I said, the Barricade here really demonstrates that he's actually quite a big deluxe. Like, he's almost just as long as the Optimus Prime, just with not as much mass. And then you can really see how small the Bumblebee is when actually compared to the Prime. So yeah, just getting that comparison out there. Here they are with that deluxe class Bumblebee. And then finally, here they are with the good Barricade. And yeah, that's basically it for my review on these two. I think the Bumblebee, again, is still alright. He's not the best figure because the transformation and the fiddly bits make him kind of a pain to handle, but I definitely like him better than the Barricade because the Barricade is just so clunky and so stupid. It's hard to get him into poses that look cool and dynamic besides just standing there. And even standing there is a problem for him because his stupid feet can't hold him up. And again, it's just the Barricade, I like that he's a bigger deluxe, but it comes at the cost of him being so clunky and so just problematic. And I do think both of these guys come with a healthy amount of accessories, and the backdrops are nice. It's just, with just how much hype are behind these figures, it made me just get a little too excited, because now I feel even more disappointed about both of these guys, even though, again, there was so much hype behind them.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
And I do like the vehicle modes. I think the vehicle modes are really well done. I think the Bumblebees looks game accurate, looks fine, it's nice and compact, and the Barricades is definitely the best part of the whole figure. It definitely is sculpted well. It's just, again, the only issue I had is it just needed more paint in those tires just to make them look a little less plain. Plus, those tires being painted would have given the robot mode that little bit extra pizzazz. If you already own that original 2010 Fall of Cybertron Bumblebee, then you don't really need to get this figure, but if you don't have that figure or don't have an opportunity to get it, then for sure get this new Studio Series one. So yeah, if I had to give these figures a rating, I give the Bumblebee a very solid 7 out of 10, and the Barricade I give a solid 5 out of 10. That's just my honest opinion, and if you guys liked it, hated it, whatever, comment down below what you think. Subscribe to the channel for more Transformers and action figure videos, give me a like on the video, and so on and so forth. And I'll catch you guys next time.